Hello, hello, hello. Hey, this here is just for charge-offs. So if you're just coming in here, go ahead, grab you a pen, grab you a piece of paper, notebook, whatever you take notes on, okay? We're going to be addressing just on how to remove charge-offs. And guess what? They can come off of your credit report, okay? I always like to say this, where one of my mentors said, everything that belongs on my desk is mine, but everything I own is not on my desk. So just because it's on your credit report and you own it, it doesn't mean it has to stay on your actual credit report. And just understand when we're talking about charge-offs or collections or whatever we're talking about on your actual credit report, it doesn't necessarily have to be on your credit report, but just because it comes off of your credit report, that does not mean that you don't necessarily still owe it or you can't still be sued. And we're not here to talk about if you're being sued tonight or anything like that. So without further ado, I'm gonna jump right on in here to how to remove charge-offs. Okay, so what I'm gonna do here is share my screen. I've already hit that record button. Give me just a second here to bring up a couple of things here. And if somebody can just let me know that they do see my screen here, you should see Shake Hands with Destiny. Can somebody let me know if they see that? Okay, good deal. All right, shake hands with Destiny. I only shake hands with my Destiny if you shake hands with yours. So let me hit my other record button here. Of course, that's not working. Hold on here. There we go. Y'all have to excuse me with all this technology here. All right. So here we go. How to remove charge-offs. The very first thing is what I want you to do. The very first thing, because none of this is going to work if we don't at least do this. You have to get your annualcreditreport.com. Go to annualcreditreport.com. It looks just like this. If you go right there, you can get your report. It's absolutely free. Okay, so just go to annualcreditreport.com, because what I'm going to be showing you tonight, it is very imperative that you look on that actual report, because if you go to any other credit monitoring, i.e. My Free Score, Identity IQ, My FICO, any of those are all monitorings. So we're going to be using what the consumer reporting agencies actually will be utilizing, so we can take the stuff off of your credit. I'm not saying that we won't use credit monitoring as well, but for this tonight, and to remove charge-off, you must get your annual credit report, because it is your most accurate credit, and that's going to credit report, and it's going to make a little bit more sense as we go through there. So take a screenshot of there and go ahead and get your credit report. Okay. Next, let's understand what a charge-off is. A charge-off is an accounting term. That's all it is. It's when you have something that's been uncollected, and it's a write-off. Okay. Now tonight we won't be talking about if you received a 1099-C. We won't talk about that tonight. That's where the actual creditor has discharged you and they have to give you a 1099-C if they discharge, and that's a tax form. We won't be discussing how you remove that tonight, but I will do another video on that later down the line. However, a charge-off is generally done once it's 180 days late. It can sometimes be 120, but usually it's 180 days, okay? Even though the account is written off, the borrower is still legally responsible for the debt. So even though it's a charge-off on your account, yes, you can still be legally responsible for it. It's just a charge-off. What the creditor is basically saying is they're not going to pay. Yes, charge-offs is going to affect your credit. It's going to have the highest effect on your credit outside of public records, i.e. such as a bankruptcy. So charge-offs affect your credit big time. Okay, that's why we're going to go very detailed on how to remove these. Okay, so there are different types of charge-offs. Okay, and I'm going to go through those real quick. I want to just go through a few definitions so you understand the language and the lingo that I'm talking about as we get these charge-offs off. Okay. One of the first ones, it's called high limit charge-off. It refers to charge-offs with a high limit. Okay, that's generally going to be anything above $1,500. Keep this in mind. Anything above $1,500, the creditor Generally speaking, they can sue you. So whenever you're going into the disputing process that I'm going to show you tonight, just keep in mind that you could be getting sued. That's nothing to be afraid of, because you want to go to court, and I can give you the ammunition on how to fight that in court. But I'm just letting you know, what a high limit charge off, you do have situations where they will take you to court when it's above $1,500. Generally, a low limit charge off is something under $1,500, which they basically will write that off or sell that, which we'll talk about that here in just a moment as well. Okay. And I'm definitely going to have a Q&A here at the end as well. So if you do want to write your questions down as we go, or raise your hand, or come off mute if I'm going too fast, say, hey, Corey, you're going too fast. Okay. So what is a paid charge off? You hear this all the time. A paid charge off occurs when you actually have paid the charge off because you're sick and tired of somebody calling your phone, the collectors, and you say, you know what, I'm going to finally pay XYZ cell phone bill to Verizon collection agency, right? And so what happens is you paid that quote unquote charge off for $500 and you expecting it to be gone. But in actuality, it shows up on your credit as a $500 paid charge off, which is still a charge off that is negatively affecting your actual credit report. People say this all the time. I paid that. Just because you pay it does not mean it's off of your actual credit. That goes for collections as well. But definitely on charge off, just because you pay it, it does not mean that. It shows up on your credit report. It does help your credit when it's paid versus not being paid. Okay. Then we have what you call a transferred charge off. That's what a charge off is transferred. It means the original creditor has sold it or assigned it to a debt collection agency or another entity. Okay, which we'll talk about here in just a few seconds, which simply means the account is no longer with their original collector, i.e. Verizon has now transferred that to a collection agency to collect on it, or they've transferred it to a debt buyer, or a debt buyer has purchased it, which that is significant information as how to get this off of your credit as we go here tonight. So you also have what you call a non-transferred charge off. What that basically means is a charge off, they've charged it off, but it's staying still within their house, quote unquote, Verizon. They're going to say, we're not selling this to a debt agency, a debt buyer, nor are we giving it to a collection agency. We're going to try to collect on it ourselves, or they may even take legal action. That's what you call a non-transferred charge off. Okay. And just give me a thumbs up in the chat if you're understanding me okay. Just give me a thumbs up if that's all right, so I can grasp, make sure everybody's okay. Good deal. Okay. The term debt buyer and collection company. This is vital information because we think everybody is a collection agency, right? Because all we know is they calling us, they mailing us, they texting us, they doing every possible thing. Okay. But understand the two. Okay, let's understand what's the difference in a debt buyer and also what a collection company is. Okay, a debt buyer. What a debt buyer simply means is they have actually purchased the debt. A debt buyer purchases the debt from the original collector, okay, i.e. the bank, i.e. the credit card company, for fractions on the dollar. So let's say the original creditor, you owe them $1,000. They may buy that debt for pennies on the dollar. I'm just going to use for mathematical purposes $100. So how do they make their money? Obviously, if they now collect on that debt for $500 or $750, they've made their money. Okay, this is how they make money. Okay, however, the debt buyer takes over the role because they've purchased the debt. They can also go after you legally as well because they actually do own the actual debt. Okay. They're going to also call you. They're going to also take up legal action, things of that nature. Okay. Versus a collection company or a collection agency is what a lot of times we like to call them. A collection agency is generally speaking going to be hired from the original creditor, i.e. Verizon. They're going to get a third-party collection agency to collect on their behalf, okay? However, when they do this, they don't own, the collection agency does not own the actual debt. they're paid, i.e. a commission or i.e. a percentage of what they get to collect. Why am I going through these definitions? Because this is going to be vital as I go through how to remove this off of your actual credit. And I want you to get some terminology and understanding first, okay? So basically, in summary, the debt buyer purchases debts and they own them while a collection company is contracted to collect the debts on the behalf of the actual creditors, okay? So let's get into the juicy stuff, okay? Consumer laws. This is juicy to me. A lot of times it's boring to others, but this is actually the laws, and I want to read a few of these so you have an understanding of how we're actually getting this stuff off of your actual credit report. This is not Corey making up something. This is not credit repair companies making up something. This is how it's actually utilized. And understand, this is one big game, y'all. We got to understand how to play the game. If you don't show up on the basketball court with football cleats on, you don't show up on the football field with a basketball. You got to understand the rules to the game. So when it comes to consumer law, this is a big game. And how to remove charge-offs from your actual credit report, this is going to be a setup, y'all. We're going to set them up to do what we want them to do, and that's ultimately remove that actual charge-off. You can even get into a part where you can sue them later on. That's not something I'm going to be teaching tonight, but it can happen. So let's read here. Take a screenshot of this because I'm going to read this here. This is 15 USC 1681. I'm going to just read here. Reinvestigations of disputed information. So let's read it. Subject to subsection F and except as provided in subsection G. If the completeness or accuracy of any item of the information contained in the consumer's file, your file, at a consumer reporting agencies, i.e. Experian, i.e. TransUnion, i.e. Equifax, is disputed by the consumer, and the consumer notifies the agency, i.e. TransUnion, Experian, or indirectly through a reseller of such dispute, the agency shall, free of charge, so it's not going to cost you a dime to do this, conduct a reasonable reinvestigation to determine whether the disputed information is inaccurate and record the current status of the disputed information, or they got to do what? Delete the item from your file in accordance with paragraph 5 before the 30-day period begins on the date the agency received the notice, okay? Now, keep this in mind. This is just a law, and we're going to talk about a procedural investigation, because before you can have a reinvestigation, you got to have an investigation. So let's read here. If after any reinvestigation, so re means something has to come prior to that. So it has to be an investigation. What does this mean? We're going to eventually get to a part in round 1 where it's a setup. So I'm going to show you in your credit reports where you have inaccuracies. Most of the time, everybody has inaccuracies on their credit report, okay? So what happens is we're not gonna tell them any of the inaccuracies. We're gonna simply be asking them, hey, I want an investigation of my report in round 1, which I'm gonna show you later. But the next law in 1681I-5, it says after any reinvestigation under paragraph 1, and you can Google any of these and go right to the laws, okay? Under paragraph 1 of any information disputed by a consumer, an item of the information is found to be inaccurate or incomplete or cannot be verified, the consumer reporting agency shall do what? Promptly delete that item of the information from the file of the consumer, or modify that information as appropriate based on the results of the reinvestigation. What does that mean, Corey? What that means is, you know how your account comes back as what? All the time we send these letters off and the first thing come back is what? It's verified. That's okay if it's been verified. However, can they update the information from that first letter of the investigation? Yes, they can legally make the information accurate. However, are we going to tell them what is inaccurate? No, we're not. And that's what we're doing. We're setting them up for later down the line. So you may send off that reinvestigation letter, but then you may send off the reinvestigation letter and you may start to see things get removed, which I'm going to show you here in a little bit. One more law, the second part to this, the duty to correct and update information is in 15 USC 1681 S2, which is a person who regularly or ordinarily course of business furnishes information to one or more consumer reporting agencies about the person's transactions or experiences and with any consumer. Okay. So what that simply is saying, second part here, has furnished to the consumer reporting information that the person determined is not complete or accurate shall promptly notify the consumer reporting agency. So what this is simply saying, y'all, they have to take this information and where we're gonna be talking about here, you have the right. Whenever you ask for a dispute, you don't want a system such as eOscar to do it. You have the right to dispute and ask for an investigation with their name, who they talk to, the company and the person who they talk to, who actually does the actual investigation. Do they ever send that information? Absolutely not. But this is all a setup. And what I wanted to show you here first was the actual law. And then we're going to go into the letters. It's going to be showing you here in just a second. Is this making sense? Just give me a thumbs up if these laws are making sense. Okay. And I want to talk about double jeopardy. This is what happens. Double jeopardy is the context when we talk about charge-offs. Okay. It's when sometimes if you've had a charge-off and then all of a sudden you see it negatively affecting your credit, where you see the original corrector was, i.e. Verizon. Then they sold it to Midland Funding. They sold it to XYZ company. All of a sudden you're getting hit and dinged 3 different times on your credit report. That's what you call double jeopardy. This is where, even though the original creditor charged off the information, the creditor may sell it to a collection agency. But what happens is the collection agency is holding it on your credit report and the original creditor is holding it, and both of them might be showing a balance. That's illegal, folks. Verizon can't say you owe me $1,000 and over here, the XYZ collection company can't also show that you owe me $1,000. That original creditor has to zero that out. That's illegal. That's what you call double jeopardy. And I'm going to show you how to get that off of your actual credit report. Okay. That is illegal. And I'm going to show you a whole lot of stuff that's actually illegal on your actual credit reports. Okay. So in a sense, the borrower faces 2 negative consequences, as I just described. A charge-off impacts their credit score. So what happens is you got the charge-off on one hand and a collection on the other. Because sometimes you'll see charge-off / collection. That's what's going on here. You got a charge-off on one hand and a collection on the other hand. Okay. You can't have both. And you can have a charge-off that transfers to a collection because it's going to a collection agency. Okay. So let's talk about round 1. Okay. What we're going to do in this round 1, again, it's what you call a procedural investigation. All that is when requested, the credit bureaus involves a detailed inquiry, okay, into the methods. How did they collect your information? Did you use what they call eOscar, an automated system? I want to know, what system did you use? Matter of fact, I'm not approving that you use eOscar. I want this manually done by a person. And the process is used by the credit bureaus to actually verify the actual accuracy of the information. Are they using a human being in these cases? Absolutely not. They're using a system, y'all, eOscar, which is verifying the information. Okay, and you have the right to ask for this investigation. Okay, in this procedural investigation, and I want to make it clear, we're not giving them any information on this. We're simply saying, I want an investigation done, and the onus is on them to actually find what is actually inaccurate. What's going to happen, and don't get discouraged, is who can fight the longest. Sometimes it may take 2 months, sometimes it may take 4 or 5 months, but I'm going to show you how to give yourself ammunition on how to fight the battle tonight. Okay, so what I want to do here is talk about and show you what we're going to do. I'm going to go over here to the course. If you're not in the course, this is just some information here. You will go to module. If you are in the course, you just go down to charge-offs here. And we're just going to grab that first letter. Let's see here. Let's grab that first letter. Give me a second. If I can find where that letter went. Hold on one second, folks. There we go. It took a minute. I apologize there. All right, give me a thumbs up if you're able to see this letter, or at least somewhat. Let's try to make this a little bigger here. And hey, guys, just remember, in this letter, the only thing we're showing in this letter is it's a simple letter, okay? I'm writing just to formally request, and all of this is in the course as well, but you can actually write this letter yourself as well. What you want to do is just say, hey, I'm formally requesting procedural investigation into several inaccuracies that I've identified on my credit report. These inaccuracies are affecting my ability to obtain credit. I believe the detailed investigation into the methods used to verify these items are warranted, y'all. And what you want to do is list you can list all of your charge-offs on this particular letter if you want to. However, make sure you're addressing this letter, as you can see here. I want to make this screen a little bigger. I apologize if I can't make it bigger. Let's zoom in here. There we go. All right. Give me a thumbs up if you're able to see this letter. Okay, good deal. All right, so all we're doing here, and take a screenshot if you like, all we're doing here is making sure you address this letter to the particular credit bureau that is actually on your actual credit report. Remember, this is just a procedural investigation. 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get anything removed on this particular letter. Remember, we're setting them up for the okie doke, y'all. What we're doing is saying, I want you to investigate my credit report. Okay. Yes, there are inaccuracies, but I'm not going to tell you any of the inaccuracies that I'm looking for. So you want to address this to the actual credit. So if the charge off is showing up on all 3, you want to have a total of 3 letters. If you have 2 charge offs, you can list them both here. So you would just address your letter where I have it highlighted. Procedural investigation, list your accounts here. And as you can see, please provide the detailed descriptions where I've put here. I've put in here, please provide detailed description of the procedure used to verify this information, including the sources contacted. I'm asking for detailed information here. Again, this is based on 15 USC 1681I. This is the law. You have the right for this, okay? The second part of this letter where it says, request for compliance, I request that you conduct a thorough procedural investigation to verify the accuracy of this information. I'm only doing what the law says, y'all. So again, this is a setup for later on for us being able to get this off on step 2 and step 3. Okay. And when you do send this letter off, you always want to send letters. If you're mailing the letter, send it certified mail. It may cost you a little bit of money, but I always recommend certified mail. But you can definitely do this right through the CFPB, and you can have all of this done, y'all. You don't have to wait 30 days to reply each time. You can reply at the minute they reply. And one of the things that I don't have on this letter, yes, I do. You notice I have email listed because you want to hope that they email you so you can reply back to not to reply back to the email, but now you have another time to respond. So if they come back as your account has been verified in 10 days, you now can go to your round 2 on day 10. You don't have to wait 30 days because you're replying and you're rebuttaling back to them. Okay, if that makes sense. So you don't have to wait 30 days throughout this process. Okay, and you can definitely go through the CFPB. Okay, which is where you file a complaint. So the second part of this letter is where I told you, I said, please provide documentation. I'm reading right here. Please provide documentation and detailed explanations of the findings, including names and contact information. Again, what I'm doing is I'm telling them, I don't want your electronic e-Oscar system is what I'm basically saying. I hope that makes sense, okay? And whenever you're putting this information in, the first time when you send this letter, you want to send do not ever sign a letter. You want to just type your name. Don't ever sign a name. Sign your name. What you want to do though is send your driver's license, your ID, social security card, and proof of residence, i.e. a utility. You do want to make sure all 3 match. So if you have an old driver's license and a different utility bill and they're not matching, you want to make sure they match, okay? In this case, you're not in round 1, you're not going to send the credit report. You're only going to be enclosing your particular information because they already have your credit report because you're not giving them any inaccuracies. Down the line in round 3, we are going to equip some other things, okay? So I'm going to go back here. There we go. All right, so that's what you call a procedural investigation letter. Okay, I hope this is making sense. Okay, so let's go to round 2. Okay, this is where we read off the law. Okay, in 1681I, a reinvestigation. So what happens is this is what's going to happen when they actually get your information back. It's going to say what? Verified. That's what they 9 times out of 10. That's what they're going to come back and say. Your information has been verified. But based on a reinvestigation letter is just pertaining to, hey, y'all, I still have inaccuracies based on the Fair Credit Reporting Act. I'm now asking for a reinvestigation, which is just another formal request to the consumer reporting agencies. That's all that is, to investigate the inaccuracies and that's actually on your credit report. Are you going to tell them what the inaccuracies are? Nope. Because what you're doing is you're building a case against them. So later on down the line, you can actually sue them if you wanted to down the line, but you're building a case, and I'm going to show you where we're building the case here in just a second. I hope this is making sense to you. So let's go letter 2. I'm going to show you letter 2 now. Oops. There we go. Letter 2, a reinvestigation letter. Hopefully I can pull this one up a little easier. This is what happens when you have 3 screens and all of this stuff, guys. I apologize for the slight delay. Let me make this a little larger. You should be able to see my screen. This is letter 2. So what this is after it's come back as verified, okay? So you may have received that after 30 days. You may have received it after 10 days. Again, you can automatically send a rebuttal. You don't have to wait 30 days. The minute they respond with a verified via your email or even via your credit monitoring service. Remember earlier, I told you to get annual credit report. Get that. You also want to get a credit monitoring service. Why? Because they will verify and your monitoring service will give you an alert, i.e. Experian, i.e. TransUnion, i.e. Equifax, or Identity IQ. Places like that, they will give you an update or an alert when the credit report has done something. So those alerts are going to be the same thing that you can actually reply to. So you don't have to wait the 30 days again. So let's go over this letter. This is now a request for reinvestigation under section 611 and under the Title 6, okay? So what I'm asking them here, again, on round 2, am I going to tell them what the inaccuracies are? Absolutely not. I won't read all of this letter, but what this letter is basically saying, hey, I formally dispute this request and I want a reinvestigation, okay, based on the law. And what I want is I am invoking my right to a detailed and meaningful reinvestigation of a disputed item, okay? So what you want to do is you have a comprehensive description, and as I said in section 2, in line with these provisions based on the law, I request a comprehensive description of the procedure used to verify the accuracy. Because remember, I keep saying, how did you do this? How did you verify it? They didn't send me no names. I want verification within the next 15 days. I want the names. I want the telephone number, individual you contacted. You have the right to do that. They don't tell you that when it comes back as verified. Just like I said down in this letter below, I say what? Be aware, please be aware that the automated response or eOscar verifications are unacceptable for addressing this matter. This is the law, y'all. Y'all have the right. A detailed reinvestigation is explicit disclosure of the verification. And then later down here, down the line, I'm going to even let them know. Please note, failure to satisfy or resolve this matter within 30 days and receiving this certified letter may prompt me to initiate a small claim against you, seeking $1,000 per violation. Yes, you can get $1,000 per violation. Many people do that. That is not what I teach, but yes, it is very much the case. Okay, so I won't read all of that letter, but that is what you call a reinvestigation letter. Now, let's go back over here. That is letter 2 of a reinvestigation. So what was number 1? Procedural investigation. What was round 2? A reinvestigation. So round 3. Now we get to the money, y'all. So I want you to pay attention here. And I do have to spend a lot of time on this information here because you're going to notice some things in your credit report. You're going to be like, oh my goodness, I should have had this charge off of my credit report. So here, we're going to do what you call a factual dispute letter. And in order to get a factual dispute letter, you must have your annual credit report. That's the only thing that you're going to have to go by. And I'm going to give you some examples here in just a moment. Okay, but I wanted to outline the foundation of what we're going to go on, because this is what we've been setting them up for. There have been inaccuracies on your credit report, and they may many times correct 1, but they darn sure ain't gonna do 2 and 3. Okay, so a factual dispute is based on the consumer's protection outlined in the Fair Credit Reporting Act, is a formal communication from the consumer to the credit reporting agency. So this is what we're going to be doing in letter 3. And what you're doing is to challenge specific inaccuracies in the credit report. This letter not only points out what the consumer believes is incorrect, which we're going to tell you by law, we know what's incorrect, but also provides factual evidence. Now, what I want you to be clear on, as I show you the inaccuracies, you may have 1, 2, or 3. Are we going to tell them all 3? No, we're only going to share 1 inaccuracy on each thing because it may come back as, remember, they have the right to correct something, right? So you only want to give them 1 inaccuracy at a time. Okay, so just keep that in the back of your head. I'm only giving them 1 at a time. This is only round 3. So look here. Let's look before I look at the letter. What I want to show you is the relevant violations. One of the first violations that you see, inconsistent balance reporting across bureaus. And I'm going to show you some actual examples of a credit report, but I want to define them first. So when you have something that's inconsistent on your balance on the balance reporting, what that is a variance in the reported balance across different credit bureaus. That's non-compliant according to 15 USC 1681 EB. What that simply means is if your balance over here is $914 on Experian, guess what? On Equifax, it has to be $914. It's got to be the exact same thing across, because it says right here in the law, reported balances reported across different credit bureau highlights that's non-compliant if they don't have the same balance reported. And I'm going to show you here in just a second. That's one. That's one thing you want to look for. The next one is unlawful change in delinquency date. The report date of the first delinquency has been improperly altered or contradicting the law in 15 USC 1681. Y'all got this on y'all credit reports, but you just don't know how to look for it. What this says is on your credit report, it says on Experian, it says, for example, you were first delinquent January of 2023. But guess what? On your actual, on Experian, it says January, 30 days late. But on TransUnion, it says 30 days late in February. Okay. That's what you call the delinquency dates are not showing up correctly. They have to be correct. Okay. And that's altering what's happening is changing your date from when you were first delinquent. So you can't be delinquent 30 days, 60 days, or 30 days and then 90 days. It got to be 30 days late before it can be 90 days late. It got to be in succession, okay? So that's what that is talking about, but it's got to still report the same on all your credit bureaus. And you see that a ton in your actual, matter of fact, I guarantee, I shouldn't say guarantee, but if you pull up your credit reports, that's one of the most things that you see, okay? The next one here is misreported active payment history post after 180 days. Oh my goodness. This continue reporting of an active payment. So what this simply means is when you have a charge off, it can't be an open account. It's got to be what? Closed. So if it's a charge off, and a charge off can only be on your report supposedly one time. It can't be, I'm going to go over here in just a second. It can't say charge off and then say a payment, or it can't say charge off and then say, okay, charge off. So it's got to say charge off. And then it can't say active payment, okay? Because once it's charged off, it's no longer, unless you're making payments on it and your balance is reflecting a lower balance as you're making payments on the charge off, that could be the case. But most of the time, if you're charging it off and it was charged off in January of 2023, come June of 2023, you can't have a payment saying active, or you can't say in the credit report, it can't show open. It's got to show closed. Okay. So let's look at another one. I'm giving y'all some ammunition here. Another one, repeated charge off reports. This account is inaccurately reporting with monthly charge off, potentially re-aging your debt illegally. Y'all, this is the number one thing that I see on a credit report. And I'm going to show you here in just a second, but I have to go to a different screen. What happens is you see charge off on your credit report. What it's doing is re-aging your account. Let me explain what re-aging means. The charge off based on your statute of limitations, let's say it's going to be on your credit 7 years. So if it was on your credit in 2024, it's got to come off in January of 2024. It's got to come off 7 years from January of 2024. But if you keep saying charge off in February, charge off in March, charge off in every succession month, what is that doing? It's making your 7 years go farther and farther and farther out. That is illegal, y'all. You cannot do that. You look on your credit report and you see charge off, got them. This is one of the, again, this is round 3. We're not going to clump all of these together because we want to use ammunition. So if you see that on your credit report, you automatically know that's an incorrect balance. That is repeated charge off reporting, which is re-aging your account. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Give me a thumbs up if that makes sense. Okay. All right. The next one is omission of an account being transferred or sold. This is what happens when you have the original creditor. When they actually sell your actual transfer it to a collection agency or a debt buyer, guess what has to happen? They have to notate that in the comments on your actual credit report. So what happens is if you started off with Verizon, was the company that charges it off, and Verizon does not put in the comments that that's been sold or transferred, that's another omission of transfer or sales omission of transfer. They left that out. They didn't put that on your credit report, or at least I should say the credit reporting agency is not actually accurately reporting. Okay. Another one is incorrect balance reporting. The report balance remains inaccurate post transfer or sale. You see this a ton. Again, what is this saying? What happens is, I mentioned this earlier, if you all of a sudden you have Verizon was the original creditor and they sell it to XYZ company, Verizon can no longer show a balance on that once they transfer or sold that. So it must be zero balance there. And then once the collection agency gets it, it must be the exact balance that was originated from the original collector, and it must show the same on all of your credit reports. Y'all, I'm giving y'all some ammunition right here, and I hope this is making sense, okay? So here, let's take a peek here. I'm gonna stop sharing this screen for just a second because for some reason when I did this report, it was moving. So I'm gonna share another screen. All righty, so here we go. There we go. All right, so this won't show all of the inaccuracies, but I wanted to give you an idea. Now, what you want to do is go to a place like Identity IQ to monitor your credit report, where it gives you a side-by-side reference. And the reason I told you to go to your annualcreditreport.com earlier is because it won't give you X amount of history, because many times for credit monitoring, it may only give you 2 years of history and you're trying to go back. That charge off could have happened 3 years ago and you're trying to get all of the information on that particular account because you only need them to mess up on 1 month to make it inaccurate. Okay. So here's an example here of a credit report. Okay. As you can see, I don't have my little pen that writes here, but as you can see, this was charged off December of 15. Okay. First of all, it was charged off November of 15 with Equifax. So which one is it? It's got to be the same. Which one is it? That's inaccurate. Okay. Now, when you see this charge off here and you see no data here, that's correct. That is correct. But guess what? What's incorrect? When it shows back up in August, that's an inaccuracy. Okay. It's now, this just updated your file. So instead of it coming off 7 years from December 15th, it's now coming off 7 years from August 2016. That is an inaccuracy on your credit report. Okay. So I have already one right there. Then I have inaccuracy here because it's showing on Experian December 15th. Then it's showing November here. That's another one. So the next one here is, it shows charge off on Equifax November 15th. Then all of a sudden it shows okay. After a charge off, the correct way it should show right here. It should show no data. You may see ND, or you may see blank, no data. That's correct here where my mouse is. Okay. But when you see charge off and then okay, that's what I was speaking of when I talked about how do you go back to this is an okay account. Okay. Let's move up here. You see where this says charge off as bad debt transfer to recovery. That's correct. But guess what? It says charge off account unsecured. It doesn't say that this was transferred here under Equifax. So I'm going to look at that and I'm going to say, hey, something's wrong with that. All right. Another one that I want you to, that I didn't mention is I want you to see where it says credit limit is 0. That's correct, where it says credit limit. If it is a charge off on your actual account, what should be happening on your actual credit report, if you're being charged off for $1,000 and your original credit balance was $1,000 and you maxed out the card and then it charged off, it cannot also show a credit limit because you don't have a credit limit, right? It's charged off. It should show zero. So that is correct. Okay. It should show closed on that account. Okay. So that's another thing that's incorrect here. All right. So another thing that's incorrect, you see where it'll say last date of last activity. All of these days should be right. Date last active. What that is that's the last time that you made a payment. Now look at these dates. 8/10/2016, 12/1/2015, 9/1. I'm sorry, date active here and date of last payment. Okay, that's 8/10 here, 8/10 here, 9/1. Something's wrong there. Boom. And it's not showing correct across all bureaus. So just by looking at this one credit bureau, we've counted about 4 or 5 different things. Am I going to put all of those on my letter? No. So let's take a peek at the letter real quick. Give me a thumbs up if this is making sense. Somebody give me a thumbs up if this is making sense here. Oops. I'm going to look at the letter. So what I'm going to do is go back to our course here, good deal. And I'm going to get our factual dispute letter. We're going to have some Q&A here in just a second. But I want to just break down what we're doing. Let me bring over that letter. Y'all let me know if you can see this letter. All right. Good deal. Now with this letter, I'm going to get a whole lot more aggressive. And I'm only going to choose one thing from this letter. So when you get this letter, or if you're in our course already, you're going to delete which you're only going to use one thing at a time, because they may not get it off on the 3rd round. But by the time you go 4 or 5, so we already counted 5 different things that was wrong with this letter. By the time we get to round 3, they say they come back. Round 4 or 5, they're going to take this off, y'all. Okay. So look here in this letter. Remember. Keep your email on there. Okay. And if it's in red, that means take it off. Take this off of the letter. Don't send that red part. Okay. All right. So here, address it to the credit bureaus. I'm putting it up front. I'm demanding immediate deletion from this. Why? Because I already asked you the first time I did, I abided by the law. I asked for a procedural investigation. The second time I said, do a reinvestigation. You now had 2 times to correct this. And the 3rd time you still didn't correct it. Okay. So I'm writing to demand immediate deletion from this based on the laws here that I've mentioned. This is not because Corey said it. I'm actually giving them the actual laws. You don't have to do that by any means, but I'm just giving them more ammunition here. And so what I want to do is now I want to put the account here. I want to then choose one of these 3. So if I'm going with this account says charge off, what I want to do is go to repeated charge off. The account is inaccurately reporting me monthly charge off and re-aging my account. The only one I want to use is number 1. So what I would do here is delete 2, 3, 4, and 5 from the letter, and I would only use 1. The second thing is what I'm going to do. I'm going to put in my actual credit report that came from annualcreditreport.com. I'm going to circle where the inaccuracy is. I'm going to also do the exact same thing if I have a monitoring service, such as Identity IQ or something like that, if it's saying it on different, if it's inaccurate between Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax, okay? But I want to now put that, make a copy of that, circle it, put it with my letter, okay? I'm now saying I'm giving, and later on in this letter, I've given the clear and repeated violations to the Fair Credit Reporting Act. I'm not requesting a reinvestigation. So you're no longer asking for a reinvestigation. Why? Because the law is very clear. You've already asked for it, procedural investigation and a reinvestigation. So now I'm asking for a deletion from my file. And I expect you to comply with this immediately, okay? Now, what do you want to include with this? Again, the same thing as I previously stated, your driver's license, social security number, utility bill, and also you want to circle wherever your inaccuracies are, and you want to put that inaccuracies are, and you now want to give them only one inaccuracy, and you want to state that in this letter right here, such as I have repeated charge-offs on this particular account. So I've already written it here, so you would only list number one. Okay, so I'm going to come back here. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here for just a second. And open it up for any quick, or not quick, but whatever Q&A that we have here. Is this making sense to you? And what I was doing was, all of those letters are obviously within our course where we have all of the bankruptcies, collections, charge-offs. This particular way is how you treat actual charge-offs. You would do a collection, totally different. You would do a student loan, totally different. You would do a bankruptcy, totally different. This is an actual charge-off that we went over here tonight.